Hi, this is Mr. Mike for the Mechanicsburg Learning Center with episode 61 of Mr. Mike's Dino-A-Day. Thank you for joining me. We do this every day, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, and we post all of our videos to YouTube. Just go look for Mr. Mike Sgrignoli, and you will see all 61 episodes. 61 days in a row we've been doing this. We've learned a lot about different kinds of exotic animals, some of them dinosaurs, some of them ancient mammals, some of them pterosaurs, some of them famous paleontologists. So we've done a lot of research, you and I, these last 61 days. So thanks again for joining me. Today's animal is one that should be a lot more famous than it is. Why? Because we have so many specimens of it. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, sometimes we name an entire genus of dinosaur based on a single tooth, or a single foot bone, or a single backbone, or a little piece of the skull. Well, in this case, we have so many examples of this animal that we know so much about it, they have called it the most known dinosaur genera of any that we've ever come across. We have baby dinosaurs, juvenile dinosaurs, adolescent dinosaurs, subadult dinosaurs, and complete adult dinosaurs. Not only do we have so many examples of this animal, but we have, at any given moment, we have X number of species. Now, when we talk about a dinosaur, the example I'll always give is Tyrannosaurus rex. Tyrannosaurus is the genus name, and Rex is the species name. And if there's an animal that is very close to T-Rex, it might be called Tyrannosaurus Mr. Mike-I, for example. It would have a different species name. Some dinosaurs have a single species name. This one had, at any given moment, over a dozen species names. So it's been all over, discovered all over, mostly Asia, but there have been so many different variations of this one particular animal that at any given moment there could be up to 12 different species of the same genus. So it's very well known. We know, for example, that when this little animal, and I'll show it to you now, it's only about 6 feet long. At least one of the species was about 6 feet long. It is called Psittacosaurus. Here it is. Great model. Psittacosaurus. This is done by Safari. Shows a lot of characteristics that are unlike other dinosaurs. In particular, these individual tail quills, kind of bristly, but we've made so many discoveries of it that we're pretty sure this is probably the most accurate dinosaur reconstruction model that we've ever seen, because we know so much about it and we have so many examples of it. I'm going to show you an example of its face. Look very closely and you can see its little horns, its cheek horns, kind of a beak, very flat skull. It kind of resembles a tortoise or a turtle. And we even know that a little bit about the skin, because some of the skin's been preserved, and we are unlocking the secrets of its pigmentation, so we know it's about as scientifically accurate as a dinosaur model as you will ever see. So this is Psittacosaurus. Sounds like it starts with an S, but the P is silent, so it starts with Psittacosaurus, Psittacosaurus. Now, when you look at this, it doesn't really remind you particularly of any other dinosaur, but let me show you a couple of dinosaurs, and then we'll talk about it. This is Protoceratops. Proto means first, very early ceratopsian, kind of a beak, okay, and a little bit of a frill, but no horns. And then we come to Triceratops, related, but of course, the famous dinosaur that has the horns. And then you progress from something like this to maybe this. Pentaceratops. Horns, but boy, what a gorgeous, showy, exotic frill. And then you progress to something like this. Styracosaurus, which has all sorts of crazy horns coming off of it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is related to this. The one thing they have in common, that unmistakable beak, Okay, but boy, they sure look different. And to a layperson, you would never ever believe these two things were related, but they are. This is a very, very early ceratopsian. So Psittacosaurus has a very interesting family lineage. And at some point, its ancestors, its, I should say, descendants, grew the giant horns and became the more recognizable ceratopsians that we know today. Psittacosaurus, the word means parrot lizard. Why? The beak. Okay, very, very distinct looking beak. So the gentleman that named it was discovered in 1922. 1923, a paleontologist by the name of Henry Fairfield Osborn named it parrot beak, Psittacosaurus. Its second name, the species name, as I mentioned, it has several, up to 12 at any given time. The one that we refer to most of the time is Psittacosaurus mongoliensis, meaning it was discovered in Mongolia. When you hear ensis at the name of the second word of a dinosaur name, that refers to where it came from. So mongoliensis. Physiologically, okay, about 3 to 6 feet long, depending on which species we're talking about. Okay, the bigger ones 6 feet, the smaller species of the Psittacosaurus maybe only 3 feet long. Interestingly, too, when it was a younger animal, it moved around on 4 legs, so we would call it quadrupedal, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as it got older, what happened is its back legs really started to grow. They said that there was a growth spurt for the back legs, and suddenly it became bipedal, or walked around on its back 2 legs. But at one time, the 4 legs were almost the same size, and then of course, the back legs got bigger and stronger. Did it have teeth in the front? No, it had cheek teeth back here that would... it chewed a little bit. It mostly used the beak to snip off the plants because they found gastroliths in the belly. Those are those stomach rocks that would reside in the gut and help to mash up the plant matter. It was not carnivorous. It was definitely herbivorous. So it had cheek teeth but not front teeth. So very much a toothless beak, and then took care of some of them back there. I just think it's cool that it had cheek horns too. So, hands, 4 digits. Okay, that makes it a little bit different from ceratopsians because the ceratopsians had most of the time 5 digits on their paws. Okay. Large eyes, so it probably had good vision. Maybe it could hunt. Hunt. It didn't need to hunt. It was actually hunting plants. So it had good vision. Helped it probably find a place to hide away from the bigger carnivorous dinosaurs. It was definitely not a predator. The only thing it ate was plants. So its back had a combination of some interestingly colored and spaced scales, as well as these really cool tail bristles that were on a couple of the species of Psittacosaurus. So it was discovered in 1922 by a gentleman. The only name I have is Wong. A gentleman named Wong who discovered it. It was a near-complete skull. A year later, Henry Fairfield Osborn took a look at it and gave it its name. Now, Henry Fairfield Osborn, he should be a heck of a lot more famous than he actually is to most people. If you ask people that know a little bit about dinosaurs, they may have never heard of Henry Fairfield Osborn. However, Mr. Osborn was responsible for coming up with this name of a dinosaur called Tyrannosaurus Rex. So, Henry Fairfield Osborn should be famous as the man that named the T-Rex. So, throughout its history since the early 1920s, we've discovered, as I said, dozens and dozens and dozens, up to, we think, over 100 different individual specimens of this particular species of dinosaur, the Psittacosaurus. In 2004, they found a beautifully preserved kind of you can't call it a nest of dinosaurs, of Psittacosaurus. It was just kind of a group. They were all gathered together. There was 25 of them. And they were young Psittacosauruses, not hatchlings. So it was not a nest. There was no egg remains left there. And they had grown a little bit. So this meant that they probably hung out together. They probably traveled in herds. They probably hung out in family groups. So there are so many other dinosaurs that it is related to, notably Triceratops, of course, the most famous, but also Styracosaurus, which is fairly famous, related to that. Related to Protoceratops, the one I showed you earlier without the horns, okay? And also related to Bagaceratops, Microceratops, Montanaceratops. There's a whole mess of ceratopsians that Psittacosaurus is related to. Surprisingly, we don't call it Psittacoceratops. Thank goodness. So we found several hundred individuals. We know that its hind legs grew fast, and that's how it became bipedal as it got older. It is an extremely early ceratopsian, which accounts for why its head is flat and has no horns. But it is the beginning of the horned dinosaur. So let's get to our story of Psittacosaurus. Thank you again for tuning in every day, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, to Facebook, where we do this live. And thank you for going on YouTube and finding the videos and subscribing and liking them. Psittacosaurus. It's great to find a dinosaur that's nice enough to leave considerable evidence that scientists retrieve. It can be hard to reconstruct an animal that's gone. We need to be secure about conclusions that we've drawn. We found Psittacosaurus back in 1922, and little did we know how many fossils would ensue. When Henry Fairfield Osborn took a look and hatched a name, he called it Parrot Lizard, but it hasn't earned much fame. And that is disappointing. It deserves to be revered, not just because its parrot beak was sharp and likely sheared. This dinosaur is well researched because of what we found, not just a bone or two. Oh no, its specimens abound. Not only do we have clear proof of how the beast would grow, we know it lived about 100 million years ago. It wasn't quite a giant. It was likely 6 feet long, depending on which species you are concentrating on. And then we found a specimen that told us even more, the color and exterior of this small dinosaur. It was so well preserved, its tail had bristles like a quill, and plus we know its color, an unprecedented thrill. Related to Triceratops, it hardly looks the part, but when examined closely, you can place it on that chart. When young, it was a quadrupedal beast and walked about, but then it went bipedal, as its hind legs seemed to sprout. So we should be amazed at the Psittacosaurus find. It's scientifically with ceratopsians aligned, and there may never be another dinosaur we'll see complete enough to give a clear glimpse at history. The really, really cool and interesting Psittacosaurus, written by Mr. Mike, brought to you by the Mechanicsburg Learning Center. Thanks again for tuning in, live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for subscribing and watching it on YouTube. We will do this again very soon. We'll review another dinosaur or ancient animal, and that will be, of course, episode 62. So join me tomorrow. Thanks so much. Have a great, great day.